Okay, so I think we've got 25 people who have joined us this morning, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Tony Constatman. I think everybody, I've met everybody. Just wanted to thank you all for joining us this morning and welcome to the April 14th Commissioner's Student Advisory Council, virtual, of course. I just wanted to give a brief introduction and then introduce Kevin Brown. I believe he's on. Kevin?
I'm here.
Okay. Good deal. So if you all can just make sure your phones are muted in the background unless you're going to speak. That'll help us so that we can all listen to what you have to say. And we'll go from there. Kevin, if you want to talk briefly, and then we will move amongst our, let me just go ahead and share what I have here shortly here. It's just a brief.
Tony, you may want to, you want them to also use the chat feature?
Yes, the chat feature is there as well. If you guys are familiar with that. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes a minute.
Okay, maybe I will try to reshare it.
While Tony's figuring that out, I just want to welcome all of you. I know you're in the middle of all your classes, even though they're coming to you in a non-traditional way. This is I believe your regularly scheduled Student Advisory Council, although we're not going to go the whole day. We're just going to go 2 hours. And we're going to also bring you back in on virtual meeting probably sometime in May. The feedback you gave us a few weeks ago has been invaluable. That was the first and I guess only advisory group that we've convened during the COVID-19 crisis. And it's, in my opinion, the most important advisory. So I want to thank you all for participating, taking time out of your schedule. I'm going to be quiet here in a second because we have a packed agenda. We're going to, of course, discuss non-traditional instruction. Your feedback on that is so valuable to us. And then also talk about graduation and end of year activities. We of course discussed that a little bit the last meeting, but as it's looking less and less likely that we'll be back in in-person classes. However, that is still a possibility that we will, but we want to be prepared if we're not. We want to hear from you about what that might look like and what your concerns are and maybe your preferences would be for that. And then also another social emotional well-being check-in, not only for yourself, but also it was helpful to us to hear how you think your peers are dealing with this. And it's helpful for us as we do our work and get resources out to districts. And then finally, we have some guests from the Pritchard Committee's student voice team, and they're going to talk about how you can use your student voice to elevate others in your school and in your area. So that's just a quick overview of the agenda. And Tony, I will turn it over to you. And I guess we're ready for Dr. Foster and David Cook.
Yes, we can go ahead and I will kick it off with Dr. Foster if she wants to add a couple of thoughts while I go ahead and get David Cook's PowerPoint ready. If Dr. Foster is on, is Kelly on? If not, is David Cook on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, David, I'll go ahead and get your PowerPoint on. Give me a second. If you want to just introduce yourself there briefly and tell them about the work you're doing. I think they've already met you, but our two guests may not be familiar with the work that you're doing.
Sure. So I'm David Cook. I am the director of the Division of Innovation at KDE. Non-traditional instruction, as well as several other programs around innovative strategies, are housed in my division. So we were the folks who sort of started NTI 9 years ago and grew it to 83 districts. Some of you are in districts that were already in NTI before the COVID emergency. So we're the folks who are, collect information on the program, monitor the program, look to ways to improve the program. And I think obviously that's where we are at this point in terms of my staff, is we're shifting sort of into a mode of sharing the success stories out there in your districts, as well as looking at data about what we've done so far. And the thing I wanted to really focus with you guys on today, because you provided such a wealth of information the last time about things that were going well and things that were struggles for you or challenges for you in your districts, related to remote learning, as the rest of the country calls it. But we really want to start to talk about the things that might happen as we move forward. A phrase that I've started using and with my team is a different normal, not a new normal, but a different normal. We're going to go back to a lot of the same things that we did, but we're also going to take the best practices and help us to make NTI better and to make learning better in general. So just wanted to share with you some kind of really quick facts, and also just data that we've collected. The first is, and I think this number may or may not surprise you, but because we have 172 districts doing NTI now, since we started on March the 16th, we have 2,569 NTI days have been completed through last Friday. We call that in the NTI, on the NTI team, a day of instruction saved. That's the way we look at it when we do regular NTI instruction. And that's the way we look at it during the COVID emergency, is that rather than having nothing going on, we have this opportunity to have something going on. And then as we move forward, every week, we will have 860 additional NTI days, additional days of instruction saved. We collect participation rates, as you guys know, rather than attendance during NTI, and those participation rates to date have been at 93%, which is really great because that's the same percentage that we see on regular NTI days. And that just is good because it tells us that while that a lot of your districts from an attendance standpoint hover around the 90 to 95% range for average daily attendance. So we're fitting into that same mode here with non-traditional instruction. And then the last one is one that has come to our attention a lot, and I'd love to get your thoughts when I just get through this brief kind of PowerPoint, which is only a couple of minutes, a couple of slides, is what we've found, and this probably won't surprise you, is that districts who have a blended approach to NTI, which means that you're using technology when you can, and you're using paper when it's necessary to present the instructional materials to the students, that's the most effective way to do NTI. Obviously, because of access issues, you can't do probably all digital, and you're not as effective if you do all paper. So we're seeing that that's the place that it's most effective. And you guys have mentioned that on the last call, talking about Google Hangouts, Google Classroom, whatever other learning management systems you might be using. When those things are done effectively, that's when we see the best NTI experience. And the other part of that is, which I didn't put on the slide, is it's the interactions that you continue to have with your teachers that also make the NTI experience most beneficial. If we're just sending out instructional assignments and then collecting them and grading them, then we're not getting the full opportunity available to us through remote learning, and especially through digital platforms, learning management systems like Google Classroom and Canvas and any other LMSs your districts might be using. Okay, Tony, you can just move to the next slide. So this is what I mentioned a minute ago. We're probably, when we get past the pandemic, not going to look at a new normal, or we're not going to look at the old normal. We're going to probably look at a different normal, one that that advises itself based on what we're learning through NTI. Now you can go to the next slide, Tony. So all I wanted to talk about today were some areas that we're hearing from districts, from teachers, from parents, from you all, from administrators, are things that they see as opportunities for growth in the way that we provide learning opportunities to students moving forward. And I'm just going to share those with you and then ask you to comment on those. We can rethink school closure. One of the things that we're learning already internally is we knew that NTI worked for weather-related closures that were short-term. We know that it's not ideal in its current setup for this kind of situation, but we're, as I've said before this week to other groups, we're a month in. So it's better today than it was on March 16th, and it's not as good as it will be on May 1st. So school closure moving forward, everybody's going to be more prepared now. Should we have some other kind of emergency crisis kind of situation like this one, or even just in general, we can rethink school closure, and not having as many school closures is the point. We know that we've learned so much about the fact that one of our biggest areas of gap, not just in achievement, but part of the reason we have an achievement gap might be that we don't have full access to not just technology, but just the overarching instructional supports that students need. And we have a great opportunity through the CARES funding apparatus to help us to look at all of those things that relate to access. And as I said, not just connectivity, but not just devices and access to the internet, but all the things that students need to be supported in their learning. We've learned that this has created, I'm hearing from teachers every day, I'm learning to be a better and different kind of teacher. Not just that I'm stuck in, sort of just getting through this, but I'm figuring out for myself that there are some great new ways I can do lesson planning. Assessment obviously is very different. The districts that are doing NTI well are doing more authentic assessment. They're talking to students and asking them questions that lead to understanding that the student knows the material that they've been given. And then finally, I think it's showing us a great deal of how we need to rethink teacher preparation moving forward, and including more instruction and preparation for our teachers around this kind of learning, because it's going to be there when we get through the crisis. So those are the things that I feel like are on the forefront of what everybody out there, as we're hearing it, my team is hearing it, we're seeing it on our NTI Twitter feed, we're seeing it on all kinds of Twitter feeds. When folks are sharing the good things that are happening, they're also making comment about these kinds of things. What can we learn, and what can we do with the experience we're having now to make learning better because of it? So I'll stop there, Tony, and be glad to have hear comments or any questions that folks might have.
Okay. Well, great. So as we talk about the questions and comments that you might have, I'd like to go off to the students right now, and let's open it up and talk about NTI instruction. I know when we talked about last time, I'd like to start if there's any students in Fayette or Jefferson County that had not yet started NTI, if you would like to share with us how the first week of NTI has gone. David, are you printing something?
I'll turn I'm not. It's that lady that I live with, my wife, who also works for the department.
If there's any of our students would like to unmute themselves and give us some other feedback on NTI, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, this is Luke Wyatt from Marshall County.
Okay.
And I believe everything is going good so far as our NTI. It's not like just the traditional school I've been used to, but for an alternative way, I feel like it's the best it can do. And our teachers here are not like the best tech savvy persons, but they're really making it an effort and making it fun and stuff. So I really enjoy it and stuff. But I still want to get back, like, to see my school. Like, I'm a senior this year, and I would still love to get back for my graduation and see my friends and stuff for that last time I walk down the hallway and stuff. But at this time, I feel like it's going good, and the assessments are going good. We're doing like Google Forms and stuff for our test, so we've been doing those, and then like for our classwork, they'll have like videos, and we'll just answer questions about the video. So I think it's going good so far.
Okay.
This is CJ Johnson from Marshall County, and I have enjoyed NTI. I've been able to get into a routine, which I didn't think I'd be able to. I think that's really been a big part of keeping myself sane and stuff, just being able to get into a routine, get my schoolwork done at a certain time and stuff. And my teachers are doing a really good job of posting it early so I can get into it and get through it early. That way I can have the rest of my day to do whatever I need to do.
Okay. Good to hear. Anybody else want to share about their NTI experiences so far?
I actually have one more thing. My teachers are doing like another good thing is like they're sending funny clips and something to keep me kind of happy and kind of thinking like positive throughout this entire thing. So like I have a teacher who sends me a Family Guy clip on Google Classroom, just something to keep me kind of laughing and get my hopes up and stuff.
Great. That's good. Okay. Anybody else would like to share?
This is Roheen Dutt from Jefferson County. We just started NTI last week, but so far it's been pretty good. Like CJ said, we've been able to get back into a routine, which I think is really important, and NTI helps sort of solve that.
Okay. Roheen, are you at Manual?
Yeah.
So how have they handled it? Have you been doing a lot of like virtual chats, or like where you're having to did you do the choice boards? How have you how did you select your instruction?
Our teachers are providing like weekly video calls for check-ins. So and then there's like these Google Docs where they put all our assignments for the week. But
Okay.
I don't think we've had to do stuff with the choice boards.
Okay. Are you finding yourself spending a lot of time during the day doing the work, and that's one thing I'd like to hear from a lot of the students. You know, are you spending a lot of your time on doing the virtual stuff, or do you feel like it's a good balance?
It's a pretty good balance, I'd say. I've been working maybe like about 3 hours a day, so it's like enough to give me something to do, but again, it's not like taking over my day.
Okay. Anybody else?
This is Luke Wyatt from Marshall County, and like I'm taking a bunch of AP classes. Like I'm taking 3 of them, and like we have video calls every day, and those will be about an hour long, and then they'll give us work or assignments to do, and that'll be about an hour long or something like that. So it's just for me, it takes me a little longer, but it's not nothing like this out of the ordinary. Like I can't figure out. Like I can video call him or email him, my teachers, and ask them for help and stuff. So it's not horribly, but it does take a little bit of time.
Okay. All right. Anybody? Go ahead.
This is Soliana from Eastern High School, Jefferson County, and we just started NTI last week, and all the teachers and all the students, they're just trying to like navigate and see how it is. So everybody's learning as we go. So last week was kind of like slow paced, and they're just giving us a couple assignments, and this week we're on a more set schedule. Like our online classes are set to a date, and that's how it's going to remain for the rest of the school year. But teachers are just trying to find a way, like what's best for students to do work and have tests and stuff like that. So I feel like we're in the learning process right now.
Okay. All right. And then if you guys also have questions that you want to put into the chat, all you have to do is go on your little message bar here where you can see who's in the conversation. Just go into the conversation part and you can type a new message in there. And I'll be also watching for any questions. I'll type in a conversation here so you can see, and I'll be able to monitor that as people are talking, even if it's on a different topic. Like when we go on to our next topic here. If you have another comment you'd like to add on NTI or something that you want to just add to the conversation, we can always go back to that as the meeting continues. Okay. So our next topic is with Dr. Ellis, and it's going to be on graduation and end of year activities. And Dr. Ellis, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening. How are you guys? I hope well. So just want to give you a couple of updates, and then I have a survey that I want you to take. So from the last time we had a conversation, you all gave great input about graduation requirements, what you think should be local, how that should be done. You gave great insight to those of you who are seniors. Most of you already have done your senior checks. There may be some kids who don't have it, but most of you were saying, I have more than enough credits that would meet the minimum. And so it really gave us some great guidance on where to go and what direction to take with what we would propose to districts. So what came out of it with your suggestions was guidance for districts to go back and look at their local policy to consider what they should possibly waive or what they should keep in mind. So thank you for your input on that. I really appreciate it. You guys always give great insight. And then we also, we had talked a little bit about the civics test. Most of you had taken it, some said that you could do it online. Others had done it by paper. So thanks to our commissioner, Kevin Brown, who's on our line, who spoke to you this morning, and our Lieutenant Governor, who is also our Secretary of Workforce and Education Cabinet, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman. They signed to waive the statute, which is the law to require the civics test to be completed in order for you to graduate for the graduates of 2020. So most of you had it done, but those who may not have access or who may not have completed that will not prohibit folks from graduating. So just want to give you an update on the impact that you all have with the discussion and the input you give us. We don't just take that lightly and bring you together early in the morning. For some of you, if you're like my kids, this is really early to get together and give input. It really is making a difference. So the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention today that's been a big point of discussion, maybe in your districts as well, but especially with the adults who teach you all and lead you guys, is about graduation ceremonies. Although KDE doesn't determine what that looks like or what that is, that's very much a local decision. We do want to give guidance to districts for different considerations. And so clearly we're not sure how long this situation will last. We know what our guidance is and our requirements are for the safety of you and our families and each other, that there's no social gathering, and you all have seen it on TV. The governor speaks to us every day at 5 o'clock, and then there's CDC guidance at the federal level that's telling folks how to stay safe. And so, thinking about that, this is April, next month is May, and early June is going to come pretty quickly with graduation ceremonies. And I know many of you all have already probably missed your proms or missed other events if you played in summer or spring sports. That's not happening either, and I know that's a big adjustment for you. So what I'd like for you to do is that I would like for you to go into the chat box. So if you look on your screen, and I apologize, I'm looking at my other screen here, is if you look on your screen at the bottom, you'll see where it has the little talking bubble, and it's on the bar. And if you hover over it, it says conversation. If you click on the conversation and scroll all the way towards the top, you'll see a purple box that has a link to it, and one person's already answered, and I appreciate it. And if you click on that link, it will take you to a short survey. And what I want to do, because it's kind of hard to have discussion when you're not here face to face, and some people may not feel comfortable talking online. Some prefer to put a message in the chat or just listen to the conversation, and that's all fine. But we do want your input. And so on the short survey, it just asks what your current grade level is, because graduation means something very different to seniors versus juniors or sophomores or freshmen. Maybe your sibling is a senior if you're not. Maybe you have good friends that are seniors. Maybe you are the senior. And so I have actually I have 4 questions that I want you to answer. The first one just asks what grade you're in. The second one asks you, considering the current situation for graduating seniors, how important is it for graduation ceremonies to occur? For some of you, it may be a huge deal. For others, it may not be. Everybody's a little bit different, but we really want to capture that because we know how important graduation is, but the ceremony itself and how to approach that. We want to provide that feedback to our adults. And then there's the next question, and it's asking if high schools are not able to offer traditional graduation ceremony, which option would work? So we put 3 options out there just to get your mind going, but if you have a better idea, put in the other box and it will give you an option to type it out. So the options that we have out there is a virtual graduation. There's been a lot of church services that have been virtual. Our meetings today are virtual. Most of every interaction we have that's with large groups are virtual. Your classes are. Is that something you would consider to be an appropriate graduation ceremony? Drive-through graduation. This could be where folks stay in their car and students are recognized. Again, many churches have done that. Different convenings have done that to keep folks safe in their car, but with very strict rules to ensure everyone's safety. Another option that was thrown out there was a delayed ceremony. So many of the universities have canceled their spring graduation ceremonies, which usually happens the beginning of May, to December, or some people have talked about having high school graduation in the fall. What are your thoughts on that? Is that too close to going away to school or starting your new job or whatever your pathway is for any post-secondary plans? So it's something to consider. And then
Amanda, we don't see the link. Do you?
Yes, go to the top of the chat. I've had people answer it. So if you scroll to the very top of the chat.
Okay, yes, there it is. Go right at the top.
Purple. Yeah. And then, thank you, Tony, though, for bringing that up. Okay. And then the 4th question just says, as districts make decisions on upcoming events and instruction, what are topics or considerations students feel are being overlooked? So this doesn't have to be in regards to graduation, but we are trying really hard to think about everything that would impact students. And I am certain we have forgotten something. Or if we've thought about it, but we haven't communicated it well, we need you to tell us. And so I'm going to give you just a moment. I'm going to share my screen just long enough just to show you in the chat box of where it is. Tony, if you don't mind if I do that.
No, that's fine. I just posted it again. I just copied it and put it in the chat again too. So
perfect.
I think I've got it now. So yeah.
Okay. Let me.
And just to reiterate for the students at the department and the commissioner and the state board, we don't make a decision as to what type of graduation ceremony you may have in your school, but we are here to be a sounding board and to help districts explore other ideas. Since this is we're in a kind of a new territory here, we want to make sure we're honoring these important milestones or may have to do these in a non-traditional way. And so that's why we're having the conversation. These will be local board decisions and school decisions as to how those things are handled, but we just want to make sure that if there's something going on in one part of the state, that we get that communication over to the other part of the state. There's been some ideas, as Amanda mentioned, of drive-through graduations, maintaining social distancing, virtual graduations, using some type of an electronic platform. And so that's why we need your feedback.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kevin. You're 100% correct. This is to give feedback to just the districts. And when we speak about to the board or to our superintendents or whomever we're talking to as they make decisions, we're sharing who's given us input and where we acquired our input. And we typically start with you guys. And so I really want to encourage you to take a little moment to take the survey. It's only 4 questions. I want you to be brutally honest, as you typically are, and I greatly appreciate that. And if anybody has a comment, I am open to that as well. And thank you, Tony, for posting that again. I appreciate it. Anybody want to make a comment or anything in the chat before I pass it on, and then I'll share results towards the end.
This is Lauren Witt from Glasgow High School. We recently just posted news that our scheduled graduation will be on May 14th. Governor Andy Beshear actually mentioned it at his 5 o'clock meeting, and I'm actually a part of the senior leadership team at my school, and we discussed it yesterday on a meeting, and just from a one day after we got that news, I've received a lot of feedback from other students on how they would much rather have a delayed graduation in the summer or sometime where we're able to all be together instead of having a virtual graduation, which would most likely be the case if graduation was on May 14th. But I just wanted to express, like, I've gotten a lot of feedback from students that would much rather prefer a delayed graduation, which was an option on your survey. So I just thought I would mention that.
No, I think that's great input, and I think that's really important to capture that you and your classmates have really thought about that and needing closure. It's a big deal. It's a huge milestone, and that should not go overlooked. But I really appreciate you sharing that information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
This is CJ Johnson from Marshall County, and a lot of the feedback I got is also a delayed graduation. I don't know if people would like, a lot of people are saying they would rather have it in the summer rather than the fall, just because it's getting close to when they're going off to college. But the general consensus is they would rather not have a virtual or drive-through graduation.
Okay. Great feedback. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
What other senior events are you guys worried about when it comes to this stuff? And this doesn't just have to be graduations. I mean, obviously proms are out, but what are some other things? You know, I know my son is a senior. He's brought up things like senior breakfasts. And are there anything that your schools are doing to recognize you that make you feel good, or things that you think that your schools could do to maybe make it a little bit, make it a little bit easier on you? Anything unique, anything different?
This is Lauren Witt from Glasgow High School. My principal has an Instagram account where she posts different things on there. And recently she's been posting like cap and gown countdowns where students will have their senior picture and then their future plans and favorite memory of their time at Glasgow. And I think it's a good way to still honor students by showing like their picture and their future plans. And we've also been doing things such as send in your favorite Glasgow t-shirt, or the seniors had the opportunity to take a picture in front of their house with a Scotty senior lives here. And our senior sponsor went around and placed those things around everyone's houses, and it just made, I don't know, seniors feel good and still appreciated in this time. So I don't know, just different things that the principal is trying to do just to lift our spirits. And I think that I don't really know the plan for our senior breakfast and all of that, but I think our senior team is trying to come up with ways in order to make that happen, or at least try and simulate a similar senior breakfast just to make sure all of us get to experience that.
This is Luke White with Marshall County High School. And one of the things that our school does is that it's like the week before our graduation, we would go to our elementary schools and middle schools and walk down the halls and stuff for like our last time and stuff. And I think I'm just going to miss that because my brother, he's a year older than me, he done that last year and told me how good it was and to see his teachers and everything for the last time. So I think that's something we'll miss, and I was looking forward to. But
I really appreciate you guys sharing that, because I think what I hear a lot of, and it's absolutely valid, is closure and things you were looking forward to that you've been working for a long time, to be able to experience those final things, to put closure onto it in a positive way. And so the things you remember, and somebody said earlier, maybe Luke, it may have been you, that just said, just walking through my halls one more time, you know, and you think you can't get out of there fast enough, but when the time comes to go, it's like, wow, this has gone really, really fast. And so I really appreciate your all's input on that, and the desire for personal, in-person graduation, not interested so much in the virtual piece. And I think that's really important to know and express, just to share with those who are making decisions. And they're trying to do everything they can for you and keep you safe. But so they have hard decisions that they're making. So I will continue to collect those responses, and I'll be happy to share them so you can see what the overall response is from your advisory group. And I really appreciate your comments. This is very helpful for us, and for keeping in mind the human side of this, and really what's absolutely best for you guys. So thank you so much. Tony, I'll turn it back to you and share the results in a bit.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr.
Tony,
Appreciate it.
before you start, just to related to this, and I know the students probably have some questions, but the governor, when we made the announcement that schools needed to close to in-person classes through May 1st, the governor told the department and the superintendents that he hopes to be able to update the superintendents in mid-April, because he's using the data from public health to make these decisions. And I know some states, around 23, have already called school off the rest of the year for in-person classes. But Governor Beshear wants to make sure that we're using data, because things are going to be changing with the virus, either the cases going up or going down or leveling off. And then that will help inform whether or not we can return to some sense of normalcy. And so he did tell the superintendents there's a small chance that we will reach a level where we could get back to in-person classes at some point, but that's a very small chance. It's still there. And of course, that would probably be towards the end of May, beginning of June. So we hope that we're expect to have the governor brief us again, if not this week, sometime next week. So your superintendents and your local boards will be getting, and principals, more information, hopefully really soon, about what this may look like. But also know that we're doing it in a way in Kentucky where we're using data to keep that hope alive. We may be able to come back even if it's just for a week for senior activities, knowing that may not happen, but hoping that it could happen.
All right. Sounds good. And so I think all of you also to keep in mind, make sure that you are in touch. You guys are all leaders at your school. Obviously, you're leaders in the state because you're on this council to, share your thoughts with your school leadership team on how you feel about these activities, even those of you that aren't seniors, to share, the thoughts of how your peers feel, because I think that's very important. So I've posted a question. I do want you all, if any of you all want to share how you're feeling, and you want to write an essay for us that we can put in a column form on our website, we'd love to share it through social media. We're going to include that in the exit slip. So be thinking about that as well. And I'm going to go and see if Dr. Sweeney is on. He is. All right. And I will turn it over to him at this point.
Hey guys, can somebody let me know if you see my screen?
I see your screen.
Awesome. All right, so this first activity is for both the adults and the students.
You are echoing a little bit there though.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, that's much better.
Awesome. All right, so again, this is for the adults on the call and the students. I think it's important for adults to model, and just to be humanized to kids. So quick check-in, how are each of you doing? What is keeping you going? So Tony, if you wouldn't mind just going through the list of participants, and if you feel put on the spot, that's not the intention. You can certainly say, pass, but we just want to check in with you, see how you're doing, what's keeping you going.
Let me go. Actually, I'm just going to do, this would be a good way for me to keep attendance as well. So I'm just going to go on my attendance sheet here. Perfect. Is go with Nicole Arnett, if she's on. And Madeline Blankenship.
Yeah. I'm an upcoming junior, and next year I'm taking lots of dual credit classes. And so scheduling those classes has been really stressful just because it's harder to get in touch with my counselors and my teachers to see what their suggestions are. So I've been a little bit stressed over scheduling because we're scheduling right now. But other than that, all the NTI is going pretty good. So I'm just a little bit stressed out over my classes for next year. So
thank you for sharing.
Okay. Sarah Davenport.
Hi, I'm from Fleming County, and this is our first time doing NTI, but overall, I think it's going pretty well. Some of the cool things that we've been doing, our principal has been doing a lot of posts on Facebook and interactions, as well as our student council and the Kentucky Student Council Association. And so they've been having a lot of virtual spirit days, which is fun, and it keeps students interactive. And we've been able to highlight a bunch of the seniors and students. And so our principal also had all yard signs made and delivered to all of the seniors' houses, which was really nice and a good way to boost morale.
That's awesome. I've seen a couple of those in our neighborhood too. That's really great. Reese Dickin from Barron County. Okay. Roheen Dutt.
Yeah. I'm from Jefferson County. I'm doing pretty good right now, and NTI has honestly been something that keeps me on track, so I'm pretty glad for that.
Okay. Renuka from Paul Lawrence Dunbar in Fayette. Okay. Joshua Griffith, Russell.
Hi. One of the things that I've been doing that's been really getting me through is I just kind of go out for a walk every day with my dog. And I walk him, and then I do a lot of outdoor stuff like fishing and working out in my garage. It just kind of gives me stuff to do other than work.
Awesome. All right. I'm not sure. I think Layla Hayes from DuPont Manual, she told us that she was not able to make it today. Layla, if you're in, you can just chime in if you'd like. CJ?
Yes. I'm doing pretty good. I've been doing some different stuff I haven't been able to do before. I can go out for drives and stuff that I normally wouldn't get to do in a normal setting. And I'm also I'm doing well in my schoolwork. I'm actually doing better than I was. I'm more of an independent learner, so this has kind of helped me kind of figure out what I need to do. Help me, and I think it's going to help me in college as well because I've been doing a lot of it by myself. So.
Okay. And I'm not sure if Soyana is still with us. I know she had to go on to an online class. She was going to join us for the first part and then come back a little bit later. So I'm not sure if she's still on. We can check in with her when she signs back on if she's not on right now. Madison Ortega from Rowan County. All right. And Katelyn Perkins from Glasgow.
Like CJ said, I'm more of an independent learner, so I'm enjoying this, doing things at my own pace, but still getting them done when they're due. But the only thing that really stresses me out in a way is we get out of school May 14th, but some of our AP AP exams are after we're out, so I'm worried I'm not going to have the same motivation as I do now and as I would have if we were to still be in school continuously learning and getting that extra study time. I know we will still have that on our own time, but it's different when you have that mindset of, hey, it's summer, I don't have to do it. But I'm just worried when it comes to that.
Got it. All right, Anna from Campbell County.
Hi. So I like the idea of having a routine, and I've been doing online schooling for about 3 weeks. So I kind of like a routine. I still wake up early, and that's what keeps me going, and hang out with my family.
Okay. And you're a senior as well, right?
Yes, I am a senior.
Okay. How are you coping with everything? With that?
I'm sad about it, but I'm still optimistic that everything will turn out the way it will. So I'm just trying to stay cheerful.
Good. Well, you sound like you're pretty cheerful.
Yeah, I haven't started my schoolwork today, but
Okay. Okay. Lauren from Corbin.
Sorry, I missed the first part of what's been happening because my computer started doing updates in the middle.
Oh, no.
So am I just like saying?
Yeah, we're just doing a check-in. Dr. Sweeney's just doing a little social emotional well-being check-in. He wanted to see how everybody was feeling and doing today.
Okay. Well, for the most part, I'm doing pretty much the same as I was the last meeting. All my teachers are pretty much keeping classes the same.
Okay.
And I still have yet to get a really good routine in, but that's also probably because last week we were on spring break and I didn't have to do any of my classes. So I also kind of just lost where I had gotten used to doing all my classes.
So have you been struggling a little bit with not having to be in the classroom?
I mean, it's hard for me to keep a routine, but I usually get most of my work done. It's just probably at stranger hours of the day than most people.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Sam Smith, are you there? Sam? All right, I think he was in earlier. He might be coming back. Caleb Spencer? All right. Parker Stovall? All right. Lauren Witt?
Hi, I've been doing pretty well. NTI is going pretty well. I would say that since I personally sometimes don't have work every single day that I have to do, it's a little bit hard to keep the routine, which at school I would be having a little bit of work every single day. But I mean, at the same time, I appreciate my teachers not overwhelming me with work, but sometimes it can be hard to just stay in the routine. But besides that, it's going pretty well. I agree with Katelyn that there are some exams that after we graduate, and I'm not really sure how we're going to have the same type of thing as we are now, because we will be in school and we'll kind of be out of that routine. And I guess one more thing is that personally, I'm more of a visual learner, and I like to be in the classroom and just have that type of interaction with the teacher, face-to-face interaction. So it's been a little bit hard with certain AP classes, but I mean, we've been doing NTI for 3 weeks now. So, I mean, I'm doing the best that I can. It's going pretty well.
And how are you feeling about the graduation conversation coming up?
Whenever I first found out about it, I was kind of like, I don't want to say shocked, but I just figured that it would be a later day, especially because we probably aren't going to see like cases until later May. And I just like, I would rather have an in-person graduation personally, but I understand that like the virtual graduation may just have to be an option. But I kind of can see it from both perspectives. Okay. It's actually 5 weeks of NTI. I messed that up. We've been doing NTI for about 5 weeks.
Okay. All right. And then Luke?
Yeah, I've been doing good so far. What I've been doing to stay busy is like we're building a new house, and I've been helping my dad up there after I get done with my schoolwork. And last week was our spring break, so I've been helping him a lot up there. I would go like we have a gym set here, so I've been working out here and just trying to stay active. And I've really been doing a lot of things like I've never got the opportunity to. Like I've been reading in some books and stuff, which I hardly never do. I never have time, but I've just been finding new things to do and stuff. So right now I'm doing good, but I'm a very social person, and I miss talking to some of my friends and hanging out with them. But I know it'll all come to an end one day, and it'll work itself out.
36 million. All right, and I'd like to also invite our two students from the student voice panel, Emmy and Zoe, if you'd like to weigh in a little bit. Tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah, sure. I can go first, Emmy, if that's okay. I guess for how I'm doing, a lot of my teachers are holding kind of optional Zooms, and a lot of them are more, I guess, social oriented than classwork oriented, which I really enjoy because it's a good time to get to talk to everyone in my class and just kind of enjoy it as though we were in class again, even though we're not.
Yeah, I'm definitely appreciating like the flexibility, as people mentioned, in terms of having a little bit more say in doing things on my own time. I do, wish that we could focus more on relationships. And I think that's just something to think about going forward, is like how we can like maintain and strengthen those with our teachers and administrators. I'm not really hearing, I think other than this call, but on a local level, not really hearing administrators and educators ask for student input.
It's good feedback to hear. Tony, I'll go ahead and take over if that's okay.
That works.
All right. Let me just ask a few adults just real quick. We'll start with you, David Cook, if you don't mind. How are you doing? What's keeping you going right now?
Thanks, Damien. I am Robin, my wife, who many of the adults on this call know, says that I go into my office at 8 o'clock every morning and I close the door so I can hear better on these kind of calls, and then I come out in the afternoon. So, or I come out at lunch and then I come out the afternoon. I'm a very social person too. The adults in the room that know me know that I do a lot of community theater work. So I'm missing my connection to all of my friends who I do that stuff with. We are doing some creative things in our household. My grandchildren and I had a virtual egg hunt Sunday afternoon. They live about 2 hours away. And so we did that. That was a lot of fun. So I'm trying to get out of the house every day, walk the dogs, interact as much as I can, tweet, video call friends and family. So trying to keep myself focused on what the good things as we're talking about today that can come out of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Kevin Brown, how about you?
Well, currently, what's keeping me going, I'm on my third cup of coffee, so that's doing the trick right now. But we actually came down to our family farm for the duration because we have 2 big dogs and we have a condo in Lexington that's small, so we thought this would be better to have more space. But actually, I think it's been harder because I'm sitting here looking out onto the fields and things that I would like to be outside doing, and then I have all these meetings. And I'm more exhausted in the evenings I think, than I would be on a normal day when I would go into work. It's because I think because you can't walk over to somebody's cubicle or say hello or just go down the hall. We're having all these Microsoft team meetings. And so it's a different kind of tired is how I've described it. And so it's frustrating in a way. I have a beautiful view, but I'm not able to go out and do work that I want to do. So I missed the ritual. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed the ritual of getting in the car and having coffee, listening to NPR on the way into work. And that kind of gives you time to reflect on the day. And then when you go home, you can kind of wind down. And now you get up, you take a shower, and you're sitting here all day. And so it's very different. So that it's been taking some time to adjust to that, I think. And I know everybody's feeling the same way. And I think even though the technology is really great that we have, just that even though we can see each other through these calls, you miss a lot of body language and affirmations that you might get. And I've read some articles about that, how that's missing even in the best of platforms that you may be using. So I think that's certainly something that's missed.
Thank you for sharing. So for the sake of time, we won't be able to get to everybody, but I know Amanda Ellis, who you just heard from, has been really enjoying her time with her family. I think they actually went to the lake, had some lake time recently. Tony, I'm sure that as social as you are, you're still connecting with people as any way possible, whether that's on phone calls or FaceTime or social media. I know that that's something that's really important for you. Okay, so I want to finish up. Thank you everybody for chiming in. But I want to go over a few things. As a program coordinator for comprehensive school counseling, I consider myself a mental health professional. So I'm not going to lecture you on mental health, but I do think it's really important. And as student leaders for your schools and your communities, I just want you to be informed on a few things in terms of mental health. So a lot of people might be feeling like, golly, I'm so depressed right now. So much is ending. There's so much uncertainty. So I want you to know the difference between sadness and depression, because I think that word depression gets thrown around a lot. So this is kind of the difference. Okay, so sad is it's normal, right? We all feel sad at times. But the difference is sad is inconsistent. Okay, so again, the key word earlier was we feel sad at times. Depression is going to be consistent and constant. So it's going to really manifest itself into looking like physical complaints, withdrawn socially. You're just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Academic decline, substance abuse, self-criticism, right? I'm not any good. I'm not cool enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not smart enough, etc. Aggression and irritability can also be a sign of, if you're seeing these things constantly, it can also be a sign of depression. So if you have friends that are showing signs of this and it seems to be constant and consistent, then that's when you might need to get an adult from the school involved. Also, I heard one of our students earlier talk about how she's trying to really stay optimistic during this time. So I want to tell you a little bit about the difference between optimism and catastrophic thinking or awfulizing. And I want you to know the difference between what it takes to be optimistic versus the others. Okay, so really what it takes is being able to reframe one's mind or telling yourself a different story. So one story that you could tell is like, man, I'm a senior. This really stinks. I'm so bad that I have the only class in the history of the world that had to finish their senior year virtually. But an optimistic example is really changing that story to, this is not ideal, but I get to be in the only class in the history of the world that got to finish their senior year virtually. This will be one class to remember. So reframing one's mind, telling yourself that different story. It's not that you aren't good enough or that you're the unluckiest person in the world, but you are good enough and you get to be part of something that is really unusual, but you can make the most of it. I think that's going to be really important for you and your friends as well. to be able to do these things, it will take self-awareness. So you have to first and foremost understand your own needs, right? For me, to be optimistic and to really kind of feel like, you know, I'm going to be able to keep going, I have to work out. For me, it's the bike. You know, it's getting on a bicycle, being outside or indoors, and that's my getaway. For you, you've got to figure out what your own needs are. Is it getting on FaceTime? Is it having a group chat with your friends and over some soda or a cup of coffee? And then you've got to figure out your own personal interests, your values, your hopes and dreams, etc. But that self-awareness is going to be super key for you to remain optimistic during this time. So what else can we do to help? And that's kind of where I want to finish up. There have been some incredible examples of what other people are doing to raise awareness or support the emotional well-being of other young folks. On the right, you see a little card and a picture of somebody's hair. That's from my wife. She is using her Cricut to create these headbands for healthcare workers so that their ears don't hurt when they're wearing face masks. So that's one way for her to give back. Another way we're seeing, and I'm not going to play this whole video, but we're seeing the Cracken County High School. They put on a concert for their entire school and for their choir teacher because their concert got canceled. We're seeing examples all over the world. Oh, one sec. Oh no. Hold on one second. We're seeing these examples all over the world and are incredible. Let's see if I can get my link here to work. My little thing, it's not working right. Sorry. Well, I would show you, but that doesn't seem to be working right now. But we're seeing that people are holding exercise classes outside in their neighborhoods for other people to look out of their windows and join them. We're seeing people sing together. We're seeing people create signs of just hope and togetherness. We're seeing so much across the world right now that even though this virus is really hard for many of us, there are actually ways that it's bringing us together. Okay, last time on the call, I told you that I had major concerns for students. Right now, basically my concern sits with kids that might be enduring trauma in their homes currently. It could be that they are also struggling with their mental health or impoverished. There could be a number of things, but what I wanted to know from you is, who are you generally concerned about right now? Without saying names, just put it in the chat box. Is there a group of people or a situation that's really been on your mind right now within your community or your school? So go ahead and take a quick second, throw that in the chat box. It could be that you're really worried about kids that you know sat alone in the cafeteria at your school and really self-isolated. It could be that you're really concerned about kids that again, are enduring poverty and might not have food to eat. But what is your passion? What is that group that's kind of been on your mind? Put that in the chat box, please. While you're throwing that in, I did want to tell the kids that were really concerned about the AP program. I did want to bring your attention to the link that I posted earlier. College Board does have YouTube live classes for free, so those classes will help you become or feel more prepared for those upcoming AP exams, even if your school does let out a little bit earlier. All right. Oh, cool, CJ. So Marshall County did a TikTok with 70+ people. That's awesome. All right. So we have some concerns about kids that have drug users in the home. Okay. Students that need and look forward to school to escape a troubled home. Absolutely. Too many kids in a small household. Yes, definitely see that. What else? While you're putting that in, think about this. First off, remember that that it's really, really hard to take care of others without first taking care of yourself and your own needs. So remember to do that. But then this is it for me. I know we've got some other great speakers that are going to jump in, but I'd like you to finish up by thinking about this. What can you do to help other kids in your community or your school? What campaigns can you start? We think that you guys have the most incredible voice. When I talk to your school leaders, they talk about how you really have a lot of pull with the students in your school. So what campaigns can you start? How would you help a friend who you knew was struggling with one of the items that I showed earlier? And then how can students help each other? I have been to many of your schools multiple times. We talked about Glasgow High School. I got a chance to see your incredible choir and tour your school, and what a beautiful school you have. Eastern High School, I grew up 5 minutes from Eastern. DuPont Manual was my rival growing up. Marshall County, spent a lot of time at Marshall. So I spent a lot of time in your schools, and I know that you have that each school has individual needs. So I'm really, really interested in what you can do to begin a campaign at your school. It could look like, if you see somebody that's being bullied online, that you step up and say something and really spread that. It could be that you guys just create positivity. It could be that you check on the elderly in your community. But these are things that we really need to think about, and we think that you are you have the potential to be great leaders that can start some of this. Okay, so Tony, I'll finish there. I look forward to reading your chat, and I'll stick around if there's anything that I can do. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Damien. I appreciate it. And so there's a couple more comments in the chat there. I also wanted to go ahead, and this seems like a perfect segue into our student voice piece. And for that, I want to welcome Emmy Sippy and Zoe Jenkins from the Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence Student Voice team. And if they wanted to just do a brief introduction, which schools you're from, how you got on to be on the Student Voice team, and also explain what the Student Voice team is. And either one of you can go first.
Great. So I'll start just by giving a little bit of background. I'm Emmanuel Sippy, or Emmy. Use she, her pronouns, and I go to Henry Clay in Lexington. And I joined the Student Voice team when I was in middle school through my brother, and knowing Rachel, who's on this call too, our adult director. And basically, our mission is to amplify, elevate, and integrate student voice into broader decision-making around education with a real focus on equity. So thinking not only about having things be the same for all students, but proportional based on need, and based on really focusing on students who are historically less heard in this moment, and most marginalized, particularly in a time like this. Zoe, do you want to add anything?
Oh, yeah, I can do a quick intro. Hi, I'm Zoe Jenkins. I'm a junior at Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. Similar to Emmy, I just kind of got introduced by friends that I knew that were on the team. They came and visited my high school and did a workshop there, and I got really interested and then joined pretty easily. Should we just go ahead and get started, Emmy, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I can start. So I was asked to talk today about student voice teams, #quarantine kind of like movement sort of thing, and also about our podcast efforts. So like what Dr. Sweeney was talking about, just reaching out to try and help students. By an ask from the commissioner and Governor Beshear, we saw that there were a lot of teenagers who were kind of having a hard time coping with needing to stay at home. And so it's like we've talked about throughout this entire call about, not being able to have proms or graduation, or not being able to see friends. That can be really, really difficult, especially during like your own like going through and growing up. And so we wanted to provide resources to teenagers on ways they can stay connected with their friends, but also just provide a space where we could connect with others. So as a organization that's run by other youth, we thought it was a great time for us to use our own voices and our own agency to talk to other students about ways we can make quarantine a little bit more fun for everyone else. Another thing too is just what we've been doing with the podcast. So like what Emmy said, a lot of our mission is about amplifying and elevating the voices of students that we don't usually hear. And especially during everything going on with COVID-19, we are realizing that there is definitely like an equity gap between what students we are hearing from and what students we aren't hearing from. And so a lot of what we want to do with our podcast and what we've been trying to do is to reach out to students that we don't hear. So that looks like kind of reaching into our student networks to try and get into different regions of the state, and also just to try and get more voices on what we can do to transform education during this crisis.
Yeah, and then a couple other things to mention. We're having mental health cafes every Tuesday. We have one tonight at 5 Eastern time, and that's up in partnership with an organization called Low-Key, based out of Paducah, and very similar to the check-in that we just did, and just getting a little bit deeper into, you know, what we can do action-wise in building our energies. We use those times to kind of approach an issue and think about it. So last week we talked about communication and really thinking about how students can serve as partners in efforts to make this time and our educations really work for all students. And then this week we'll be focusing on anxiety and how that plays into everything. So those are really nice time to just connect with students across the state. And we'd love to have any of you who want to join us. I'll drop the link in the chat about that. And we also have, oh, Rachel just did. And then we are also working kind of on a national scale with our partners at Student Voice National and at Future Coalition with things like the Social Community Series, which is a daily kind of space for youth activists and adult allies and just leaders like all of you to connect and learn from each other. And so
Emmy, it looks like your volume may have gotten hit there.
Oops. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was wrapping up, but yeah, people that we need to be hearing from. So those have been cool partnerships for us to explore, and again, things, just virtual gatherings that we would welcome anyone at. Also, I don't know like what our timing is like, but if people have questions in terms of getting involved in any of these things, or what you might want to do, Zoe and I have been at this for a while, and we might be able to help.
Yes, I would love to hear if anybody on the Commissioner Student Voice team would like, or now I'm calling it the Commissioner Student Voice team. See how that works? If anybody has any questions for these two students, or if you have any questions about anything that Dr. Sweeney had mentioned, we'd love to open it up for some questions or comments. Okay. Dr. Ellis, did you have the results of your survey? If she's still on, I can check back with her. All right, we'll go back to Kevin.
So I think, does this complete our agenda, Tony?
Well, it does for the most part. We're going to have just we have 20 minutes, or we have several minutes that I've got planned just to talk a little bit about. I was going to talk about some of the guiding documents in relation to the senior or the students in terms of grading and things that I think that they would like to know about that we've been working on at the department. If you could kind of talk to them about the things that we did last week, and just to kind of let them know about those things.
If Amanda's back on, why don't we have her give us a highlight of those as well as the 2 graduation options?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, if it's okay with you guys, I'll share the results you all commented on. I had 13 responses, so I'd like to share that as well.
Awesome.
But basically, from our last conversation last week, what came out, and this comes into one of your all's comments too, was there's a lot of decisions, even as Kevin mentioned earlier, that are made locally. So it's made at your district based on the needs of your community and student body and all of that. And so we provided guidance last week to your district administrators, your district leaders, about things to consider for instruction. So we worked with David Cook with NTI and put considerations out there. We also, part of that guidance was for graduates of 2020. So we talked already a little bit about the civics test and the options that we went through. We shared that with our Kentucky Board of Education and really took in the feedback. So your feedback honestly was quite similar to the high school principals. So where we had given you the option before of, okay, if we ask your boards to consider the minimum requirements of the 22 credits, which you, as you all know, are the core English language arts, math, social studies, science, PE and health, arts, visual and performing arts, and then the electives, the 7 electives, or the 15 credits where you do all your core courses, but you don't have to have the electives. And it was kind of what you all said, let the local districts decide. The principals were like 45% for the 15 credit hours and 55% with the 22 credit hours. So it wasn't a definitive, you have to go this way. They just like the flexibility, just what you all said. And so that's the guidance that we provided if a district felt like that they had the need to go with only the 15 core courses and not have electives be a barrier, that they could request that from the Board of Education. I think our board was really overwhelmed by all of the decisions and how fast the decisions were being made. There's been a lot of work that's happened in a month. And so that really is attributed back to your all's feedback. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. We've been providing guidance and question and answer. So your district leaders have been asking lots of questions and processing how to continue to handle meals. That was one of your comments, and I'll show you here in just a moment, of things that maybe folks aren't talking about. And so the discussion is, how do we continue the summer feeding and keep the people safe who are preparing and delivering those meals? That's part of a conversation now. Summer learning. You know, so if you get to the middle of May or the end of May, whatever happens, we get to the end of the school year, there's a lot of learning, especially for young students too, of what do we do to ensure that there are still supports for our families and our continued learning, maybe not as structured as NTI, but how do we encourage that so students aren't lacking the knowledge that they need for next year for the next level. We also gave guidance around, many of you all obviously take AP, and you know that you'll be taking your AP exam at home. It's going to only be free response. Dr. Sweeney put in the chat a reminder of College Board placing on their online platform. They have lots of videos to prep and review. I hope you'll take advantage of those. They have worked extremely hard to provide the assistance needed for students in this time. And of course, if you're in IB, the International Baccalaureate or Cambridge, they have canceled their exams. So if you're an IB school or a Cambridge school, you're not going to have the exams this year. Dual credit still going on. So we were providing guidance around ensuring connectivity and technology, just the equipment to be able to continue those courses. We've also talked about, just for those of you, especially since you're in high school, we had Kia come and speak to our superintendents about KEYS money. So many of your districts were discussing whether or not to do pass-fail or regular grades, and how you calculate KEYS, because KEYS money starts as your freshman year, and as you all know, that builds each year with your GPA. The better your GPA is and your performance on ACT, the more money you'll get for when you enter into college. And so those are all deciding factors. So a lady named Becky Gilpatrick from Kia came and talked to the superintendents, well, she didn't come, she attended the virtual meeting and talked through how GPA is calculated and how your KEYS money is calculated. So a lot of your concerns and a lot of your feedback really helped guide, like I said earlier, a lot of the guidance that we provided and the discussions we've had with administrators. So we're truly appreciative. I am going to pull up my screen, excuse for the delay here, and I'm going to show you the outcomes that you all provided for us that we plan to share with the task force and superintendents and others. I'm just going to share. Let me share my screen with you, and then I'm going to show you the results. And Tony or someone, can you please confirm when you're able to see it?
We can see it.
Awesome. So if you all will look on the screen, 13 of you all responded. 8 of you are seniors, 3 juniors, and 2 sophomores. When asked about considering how important is graduation, the average is 4.23. So we had a little bit of a range, but clearly very important to folks, and something that we need to make sure that we're providing appropriate guidance for your district leaders when they're making these really tough decisions. This really, number 3, where it says if high schools are not able to offer traditional graduation ceremony, which option would work? And clearly delayed ceremony is of interest. Maybe not fall, maybe summer. I think CJ offered like late summer, just because fall is tough when folks are transitioning into their post-secondary pathways, whatever it may be. 3 said virtual and only 1 said drive-through. So it gives us a good indication of really what's a priority for you and what's really important. And I'm sure district leaders will absolutely do the best that they can. Clearly, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, but we're trying, and I think this feedback will be helpful. And then the 4th question I ask, as districts make decisions on upcoming events and instruction, what are topics or considerations students feel are being overlooked? So I want to show you each one of these comments. You obviously doesn't show who shared them. But one of them, and I think this is some good feedback for us, one said college. Like, we haven't talked a lot about transition. We've talked about the here and now, but we really haven't talked a lot about how we are helping students prepare for the transition. And I think that's a point very well taken. And Dr. Sweeney, I'll be reaching out to you on that for us to think about guidance of what we can provide districts, of how we prepare students for every bit of transition. And so that comes up again a little bit later. The next part says the importance of an in-person graduation to seniors of the class of 2020. And that is why we're bringing this up now. So that has not been overlooked, but it is being discussed now. It's just in time, and we will provide your all's feedback and some guidance. The next one, many of the people that I've spoken with felt very good about how everything is proceeding and feel like the administration across the state are really working hard to consider every option. And I appreciate that feedback. I think whoever wrote that's absolutely right. I think there's a lot of goodwill in that and a lot of hard work in trying to figure out what is best. None come to mind. Grading continue as normal when it should probably be modified. That has been a big topic. We provided some guidance around grading considerations, pass-fail versus regular numerical grading. What are you grading for? Is it for mastery? Is it participation? Knowing to the point with the Pritchard Committee's focus on equity is we know that our learning environments are not equitable. For many, they're fine, they're safe. They're consistent and available. For others, there are chaotic homes or a lack of accessibility to things, and we need to keep that in consideration. And that is what's in the consideration document, but agree with you. Another one, I thought this was interesting, how tests will work. A few of my teachers have eliminated tests for the rest of the year. However, I think it is important for tests to be given in some sort of form, Google Forms, live testing platform, et cetera, to make sure students are meeting district and state content standards. And so I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of discussion around accountability for learning, not big A accountability like your end of year K-Prep or ACT, but truly how are your teachers assessing your work and your learning, and that is a piece of the grading, because what is expected, and how do you ensure folks have access to that? I appreciate that. Let's see, grading, and then other senior events, senior breakfast, senior walk, so many things we're losing out on. We want to have a graduation ceremony and activity still. And just in speaking about that, we absolutely hear you and want you to know where are listening and sharing your feedback. I'm really pleased to hear some of you guys are on a student committee at your district, with your point taken about really having a voice. That's something we will absolutely encourage. Many of our districts have student advisories, and I hope that they're tapping into them. And so that's something we will definitely push out as a recommendation. How will this affect incoming freshmen and new students transitioning into high school? And just as we mentioned before, I think that transition piece is absolutely pivotal in the success. Even scheduling, one of you mentioned scheduling courses are pretty tough. That's something to be thinking about. How are we transitioning folks into different schools, elementary going into middle into high, grade to grade, even our preschool into kindergarten? Those are big transitional points. I think we do need to provide some guidance on that. And then the other one says end of year celebrations, mental health, and meals for students. And so just communicating out and seeing the ideas of the districts, what they're doing for our students is pretty inspirational. I'm sure you've seen many things locally. We are talking, and thanks to Commissioner Brown on his push really to ensure that all districts have access, or that all districts provide access for students to have meals this summer. There are a lot of families without jobs who are unemployed and we're not intending on being unemployed, that they are no longer able to work right now. So we know that there's a great need. And just checking in with what Dr. Sweeney had shared about awareness, self-awareness, and keeping an eye out and staying connected to your family and friends, and checking in on folks. When you think they don't need a call, they probably do, or a text, they probably do. And it's good for you to just to stay in connection with your friends and the folks around you. It's really important. So I will stop there and quit talking, and I will not share my screen anymore. But your responses really are so incredibly important and helpful. I appreciate it more than you know, and I'll be sharing this data, just the snapshot, with the different advisories that we meet with, and we have about 4 coming up in the next week. And so I just want to say thank you. Are there any comments or things you would like to share? Please feel free to put it in the chat box or share with us, and I'll mute. Thank you, Tony and Kevin.
Thank you, Amanda. We appreciate that. I'm also in your exit slip, which I'm going to put in the chat box. I will also email it to you. We also are going to share these questions so those students that did not participate today because they had a class or whatnot, they'll be able to fill out those questions as well. Does anybody have any comments or questions for us?
I would just add to reiterate what Dr. Ellis said about how we use the feedback. We don't just do this just because it's a nice thing to do. We do it. It is a nice thing to do, but we do it because we need your feedback, just like we need it from all of the other advisory groups and all the other role groups. On the call today, you haven't heard from her, but we have our Chief Strategy Officer, Karen Dodd. She's monitoring this meeting, and she also helps coordinate the other advisories. And what she does is she takes the feedback, and then we have a team meeting, a leadership team meeting every Monday. We take feedback that we've received from advisory groups just like this one. We discuss them at the cabinet level at the department, and that helps inform our policy decisions. And then we also share that feedback with the State Board of Education and also other groups that may be making decisions. You'll hear in the future, if you're watching any of our webcasts on any of these issues, you may hear Dr. Ellis or Dr. Sweeney share information about, for example, the survey results when we're talking to superintendents and principals about graduation ceremonies and what students prefer, we will use this. So I just want to make sure you understand how we use it and how valuable it is. And also, you're on the advisory council for a reason, because you're leaders, and your advice is not only wanted and desired during these meetings, but you're welcome to email me, any of the folks from the department that you hear from, if you have things that you think of, or issues that we've never discussed that you believe we're missing, or that we need a student voice on. Feel free to email. You don't have to wait till the next meeting, or you can just suggest, hey, at the next meeting, I really believe we need to address this issue. I've not heard the department or anyone talk about this. So just make sure you know that those avenues are available to you, and we value your leadership in your schools and your communities.
All right. Let's go ahead. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to the conversation? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post the exit slip, and I just want you guys to make sure you can tell me that you can access it, because sometimes I have a habit of posting ones that are not able to be accessed from outside the department. Oh, Soyana is back. She must have gotten done with her virtual class. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So how did your class go?
It went good. He was just trying to, today was our first class, so he was just trying to get everything prepared and prepared. He tried to get us prepared for the days to come, but yeah.
Okay, so which class was this?
It was chemistry.
Okay, so how is that going to work?
I don't know. He tried to explain stoichiometry, but it wasn't really effective, but we're getting there, so it's fine.
Okay. Well, good. So what part were you were with us for the first part of the meeting, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So Dr. Sweeney, if you wanted to just we can send you the part of the meeting that you missed about the check-in, but we just really, to recap, wanted to check in with you and see how things are going with NTI for you. I know that you're at Eastern High School in Jefferson, correct?
Yes.
How are things going with that? I know you said just this class, but how did last week go as they rolled it out?
Yeah, so last week they just gave us a couple assignments. This week is actual online classes, so we're just doing Google Meets and stuff like that. But yeah, last week they just gave us a couple assignments because the teachers and all were just learning and different ways to come up with different assignments and stuff, and how students react to the assignments. So we're just in that learning phase right now, but we're definitely working on a set schedule for the days to come.
Okay. Do you think that this will be better than not going to school at all? I mean, school, and when I say school.
Actually?
Yeah.
I mean, school is pretty effective. I mean, this is, I think, the most effective way if we can't actually show up at school. So I think it's important that we're doing this. Yeah.
Okay. And then how about have your counselors or any of your guidance counselors or your advisors, have they reached out to you in terms of the mental health and wellness part of to reach out to see how you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's one area where Eastern's really strong at. We have all teachers and the counselors show up every day. They just, put something on a Google Classroom, and whether it's calming exercises or meditation exercises or hotlines for different things, the counselors and teachers are really good at that. So I think that's a great part about it all.
All right. Anything else you want to add about how everything is going? I know you're a sophomore, correct?
Yes, I am.
So how have they what about, class selections for next year? I know that's been brought up by a couple of students on the council. Had you guys already gone about picking your courses for next year? And this is not for the seniors, but I know a lot of this conversation today has been about seniors. Have you guys already selected your courses for next year? And I'd like a couple of others to chime in as well. But how has your school handled that?
We started selecting courses, I would say, about 3 weeks before school ended. But there was a deadline before school ended, and it kind of happened quickly. So my counselor is really flexible with that. She says, email me if you want some scheduling changes. We have the schedule book on our Eastern website, so we know the various types of classes that we can take, and our counselor is just like, email me no matter what time. She still takes class suggestions to this day, so our school's really flexible with that.
Okay. How about some of my other underclassmen here? Are you guys feeling pretty confident about your course selections for next year? I'd also like to know, are any of you guys worried about not being prepared for the fall semester because of this detour of some sort of I guess we could call it a detour, but are you worried, or is there any anxiety about what this might do for you not to be prepared for the next phase of coursework in your academic career? Or you all think everything's going to be okay? Did I lose everybody?
This is CJ. I feel like I'm going to be prepared for college, even though we did have this detour. I really do think like we're doing the best we can, and I think colleges, at least the college I'm attending right now, is like kind of knowing what's going on in other forms of education. Like my college professors always checking how we're doing at high school, all that good stuff. So I feel like in general, colleges are going to be a little bit lenient on that kind of stuff.
Okay. Lauren from Corbin, are you still on?
Yes.
How do you feel about your course selections for your senior year? Are you worried about that?
Well, we signed up for our classes before this all happened, so I already had the chance to select my courses for next year, but I also feel like my classes for next year shouldn't be too highly affected because for the most part, my classes either aren't necessarily prerequisites for what I'm taking next year, or the teachers that I have are handling it really well and making sure that we are like getting the content effectively.
Okay. Madeline, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
What do you think? I know you're a sophomore, so you still have a couple more years left. Are you worried with this being, the end of your sophomore year? Are you concerned, or do you feel like you're in a good place?
I'm not really concerned with the upcoming classes. Like I mentioned earlier, I am going to start taking dual credit classes, which I haven't taken before, which is a little concerning. And the way our school schedules, I'm from Pulaski County, we're just now scheduling our classes. And once you submit your schedule to the guidance counselors and they confirm it, you can't change it at all. So unless you have like a good educational reason. Okay. So it is a little stressful making decisions just because I'm pretty much laying out my entire junior year right now in the middle of all this chaos. So I'm just a little bit stressed out about scheduling in my junior year and stuff, but I feel like I'll be prepared for it. It's just a little stressful right now trying to get ready.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to add any comments about the next year and what comes next for you? All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up is it looks like we have, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seniors. 11 seniors are on the Student Advisory Council. So what that means is eventually, soon, you all are going to be filtering off the council, and we're going to need to have recommendations for some new students to come onto the council. So I would love for those that are filtering off to recommend to your friends, if you know of anybody, to let them know how they can apply. And I will put that in an email today too for you all. We're going to send it out to everybody. You know, we send out a release to nominate or to recommend people to join the council. But it's very, very important that we have this council every year, as you can see now, particularly now, so we can to meet with you and get some additional voice throughout the year. We are going to meet again, probably a couple of times before you graduate. Our next meeting is going to be on May 5th. I had it at the bottom of the agenda. And, you know, we can figure out what that agenda will be like. It's in your exit slip if you guys have any ideas. I actually just got a text message from Lieutenant Governor Coleman, who was going to try to do a surprise drop-in today and say hello to you all. But she was not able to do it, but she said she would like to join us next time. So, you know, so hopefully she'll be able to join us on May 5th just to pop in and say hello. But, you know, if there's other things that you would like us to consider or to put on the agenda, please let us know, because this is your council and we're here for you. So let us know what we can do and let us know the topics that matter to you. We don't want it to be just senior specific, but, you know, right now we know that that's a top issue that we are dealing with as a state. And then in the meantime, you know, go ahead and get the word out about the fact that we need to, as we focus on the fall, we need to fill these spots on the council as well. So do you guys have any other questions for us today? If not, I will leave it to Kevin to kind of close us out.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for everyone that participated. I also want to thank the Pritchard Committee Student Voice Team. If they are still on here, thank you for your work and what you're doing and participating in today's meeting. And also, as Tony said, don't forget your exit slips. We use that information to help improve the process, improve the next meeting's agenda. And then just also take to heart what Dr. Sweeney told you. Pass that information along to your colleagues, because you know, it's a stressful time in school, sometimes even when we're not dealing with a global pandemic. But make sure you're continuing to communicate with your peers and have those relationships. Those are very important. And have a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.